Sunday, but it's not.
No,
It's not. It's Thursday for a good reason, because it's a special day with a special guest, and it's a special time to jump into a rotation. Now we have 2/3 of our trio of masters of the cannabis here today. I am your co-host, Gary, the political director for Suncoast Normal, and to my right, your left, is Carlos Ermita, our deputy director and our master of business administration, who lets us know exactly how much our money is going out the window.
Hi, everybody.
And I have to say this, gentlemen, start your engines. Because today we have a very special guest, and that is IMSA and Indy race car driver, rookie of the year, and then all of a sudden just kind of dropped out of racing for a few years. We can't figure out why. But I think he's going to go ahead and tell us exactly what exactly happened to him. As I guess he got into the supply chain issue of cannabis in the early 1980s. Yeah, he was a supply chain facilitator. That's the best way to call it, right?
For those of you that don't speak Gary Stein, he smuggled marijuana.
Yeah,
Randy Lanier. Yay!
And I'm not going to say that you were responsible for that brickweed that I was smoking for $16 an ounce at Michigan State University, but it's very possible.
Yeah, a lot of people may have seen Randy from his recent Netflix documentary, where they discussed everything that's going on. Randy's got a book coming out. He's helping people that have been arrested for what do you call that? Falsely imprisoned for cannabis or whatever. Or I think that's a different term,
Yeah,
but
that is
unjustly imprisoned by cannabis.
Now, the book is just getting ready to hit the stands, correct?
Yep. The book's coming right here. I just happened to got a pre-ordered book. It's coming out August the 2nd. Kind of excited. First time publisher. Worked on it and just really got blessed. Just signed it, inked the deal with feature film now. So in the process of getting a screen board for the studio, and we can discuss that at a later time.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting. How much time did it take you to write that book?
About 5 days a week for about 8 months. Did a couple of rewrites. Take on it would have been about 1,000 pages. The publishing house, 90,000 words, which was 332 pages. So I got a second book later, just because maybe I'm long-winded with storytelling. A lot of stories in the decade that went by since I started smuggling in South Florida and California and New York and New Orleans, a few states, and kind of amazing because the demand was there, gave them the supply, and kind of it was never of weed that I could bring in, and it would be gone within days from 170,000.
I froze.
You froze?
What's up?
Oh, he's there.
Okay, now we're having a little difficulty here. Like you're freezing up a little bit. That's what the lovely internet connection we have here in Ybor City, where it all began. But I am interested in knowing how in the world did you get involved in smuggling in the first place?
Well, Gary, growing up in South Florida, my first boat was a ski boat, and that took me a lot around all the marina, intercoastals, and at 19, I'd been selling weed started selling weed when I was 15. Bought me a 27-foot Magnum, and about 6 months after purchasing the Magnum, and it just continually in loads until I bought my own 68-foot trawler, and then that took off into.
So the boats
So
kept
it
on
was
getting bigger.
bigger. The money kept on coming in. So as like anything else, you grow and learn. So we just developed ways to bring in bigger loads of cars.
Yeah, I mean, but like I sold marijuana when I lived in South Florida. You know what I mean? Like I sold a little bit of weed here and there.
Not at the same volume.
But definitely not at the same volume. But that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Like there was a point, man, and like was it just that you got the boat because you thought it was cool, and then like all of a sudden like had an aha moment where you're like, you know what, maybe I can make a lot of money using this cool boat that I just bought smuggling marijuana? Or was it just like how did that come about? That's a big step, smuggling marijuana from into the country,
So
from weed in Miami. Like there's a lot of people that sell weed.
I bought the 27-foot Magnum as a toy. Go out and have fun and jump waves and enjoy it. And I came up to run a load in. My first load was 700 pounds. For whatever reason,
Wow.
it was a calm night. It was a calm night. All that I had to do was really no waves, calm. Everything worked out. First load was probably the easiest load, but then after that, I started. Usually, something always happens in almost every load. It just doesn't go like it did. And just being in South Florida in the 70s was a lot of big time drug smugglers, and I got them, and one thing led to another to where I ended up smuggling for quite a few.
So when you sell marijuana, right, there's a big difference between somebody that sells marijuana and somebody that sells harder drugs, right? You were thrown into prison with a lot of pretty hardcore criminals, right? Did you have any issues kind of adjusting to that? Was there any issues with that?
I was a trial and received a natural death sentence. They sentenced me to remaining bound to my natural life for a case that they never found any of my marijuana. I've got what's called a dry.
What?
Did I bring the weed in? Absolutely. I brought every pound of it in. But they never found any weed. It was a dry case. So I got sent off to the prison. I first went into what's called a medium. It's kind of soft and easy, and not that it's that soft, but it's and violence, and it is in maximum custody. I was in prison for about a year and got an escape investigation and got sent to Leavenworth, which is a maximum security. Spent the remaining 26 years in maximum security. I had to wear an orange card, a good size orange card, about bigger than your driver's. Well, actually about 6 times bigger than your driver's license. They wanted me to work 2 hours. I had to report to an officer every 1 hour, every 1 hour on the holidays, every 1 hour on the weekends. I had to find an officer and tell him who I am, and for him to call the control unit, and he would call the control unit saying that I was in the rec department, law library, rec yard unit, or chow hall. So for those 18 years, it's like they had their boot on my neck in a pretty secure way. Getting caught up in these escape investigations, and I would end up in solitary confinement because that's what they do. If they thinking you're escaping, they'll lock you out of my.
Were you really trying? Were you really trying to escape?
I was trying to go. Look, I had when I first went in, I had a natural life sentence and a ton of money. So it was probably, telling me I could get in and get done. So I was kind of on that, being successful, smuggling, and everything else. So I thought I could
Locked up.
figure it out. If the courts couldn't figure it out, I would figure it out myself. That cost me 7 years and 27 years that I spent in the penitentiary. So adjusting, I'll tell you real simple. Every person on this planet, we have a lot of things in common. In common is adaptability. We all can adapt to any situation. So if it's a hardship, financial dealing, relationship, chronic pain, we all have the ability to change stance and situation. It's like if this creator gave us gifts within us, and one of the gifts is to be able to change the experience that you are going through. It's a hardship, financial, relationship, emotional. All you have to do is change your experience, and it truly works.
Now, how did they catch you?
Well, I got too full of myself. I had a house down in Antigua with a boat, a 60-foot. I was living over in Switzerland. I had fled. I tried to negotiate at the U.S. Department of Justice in Southern Illinois with my attorneys. Talked to them for months and months, and my first initial offer was 18 years, but it had to be complete cooperation and complete. I shot back. I'd give them 20 years, complete forfeiture, but no. And they said, no, it's nothing like that. It's complete cooperation, nothing at all. Back with 25 years, complete forfeiture and complete, no, and they didn't accept that. So when it came up, it was getting, they was going to indict me. And they did indict me while I was in South Florida. My wife was pregnant with twins. And when all this came about with the racing and the smuggling, one of our twins, and my son was born without his brother. And 7 days after I did on this case.
So Randy, we talked a lot about you getting caught with marijuana, but you are a race car driver. What happened?
No marijuana. Caught with no marijuana.
Oh, you just caught.
It's kind of like Richard DeLisi. They didn't catch him with anything either, but they ended up putting him in jail for like 28 years as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that's bullshit. But I do want to pay attention to your racing career. My father, as I mentioned to you, is a big fan, and I happen to have my father right here. So welcome, Poppy.
Hey,
Hi, Randy.
my brother.
Hey, man. You are my hero. One day when I grow up, I want to be like you.
No, you don't. All right. Look, better off being you. All right, believe that. Nice.
Let me show you something, okay? I got two of my racing helmets here, and I don't have your signature on the main one, which is this one. I got on the bottom what I call the Indy row. I got Johnny Rutherford. I got Bonnie Lazier. I got Andretti. I got everybody. So I gotta
Nice.
get another Indy racer in there. So tell Carlos so I can send the helmet so you can sign it for me.
In Miami?
So my dad used to live in Miami, actually. So he just moved to Clearwater.
Okay, I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, you
Yeah,
are really?
We're actually this gentleman right there raised me in Pembroke Pines.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let me tell you a story about my racing career. When I was a rookie, was with SCCA. Like my second race was in Sebring, and I almost had to stop because I started crying when I was racing. I had the X painted on my car. It was like an RX-7 first generation, and I got so emotional that I was in the same place where Fangio and Sterling Moss and all these guys used to race. That I couldn't stop crying. I still get tears in my eyes now that I'm talking about that. But anyway, it's so great to talk to you, man. Like I told you, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of my son, and I'm very happy that you're meeting with him.
Thank you. Pleasure to meet you guys, and about what's happening here in the cannabis industries.
Now,
There
most
you are.
race car drivers walk around with a ton of decals on their cars and on their jackets because of all the sponsors that they had. But you were self-sponsored, correct?
Yeah, I was self-sponsored. Some I own from restaurants and stuff that I had going on here in Florida. But I was backing my own self, racing against the factories, the Ford factories, the Jaguar, the Porsche factories. This was in sports car racing and what they
Oh my
call
God.
IMSA. We had a season that was golden. So I could do as much testing as any of the factories. If I wasn't at the race car shop, a racetrack. And if I wasn't at either one of them, I was involved with bringing a load. The plant helped me create and win a win. And it takes a team. It wasn't done just by myself. And in 1984, we won a national championship in what they call Grand Touring prototypes. And then from there,
And that's pretty cool. So essentially, marijuana was your sponsor.
absolutely, yeah. Look, this plant has amazing about how much it heals people in a multitude of ways, from chronic pain to multiple sclerosis to PTSD. But this plant has cracks like-minded people. It actually helps heal the planet. So this what we have a nonprofit organization called freedomgrow.org. If you don't org, please check us out. We're all about helping cannabis prisoners and their families. We support them, and I'm just blessed to be involved with this organization.
Yeah, I heard, and I'm probably butchering the statistic right now. Gary can correct me, but no, I heard this crazy statistic that even though that marijuana legalization has been like sweeping the nation, that most states still have their arrest records still at the same area, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so like even if you legalize, you still get a lot of people being arrested for it. So like it makes no sense to me at this point. Like, what the hell are we even doing here? So there's a lot of people that, even though cannabis, like you see something like that on the support cannabis prisoners at freedomgrow.org, right? There's still a lot of people getting arrested. Like, this is an organization that's still severely needed.
Yeah, thank you. I just sat in a trial with myself and 3 other volunteers at freedomgrow.org. None of us take a salary. We do all that just on that. I was just a keynote speaker in Mississippi. Just went really good, spreading about the cannabis prisoners and their families. But I just sat in a trial in Baltimore, 27 years old. He'd been shipping some marijuana from Northern California to Baltimore. They arrested him. They had 160 of marijuana, and over the period of time, because it was marijuana, he's facing 10 years to life. He got convicted, and so we go there and the society about jury nullification, and that means if you vote your conscience in a trial, if you feel the crime doesn't fit the time, but yet the Department of Justice, the district attorneys refuse to not even let the defense attorney inform the jury that they have that right.
Yeah, in Florida, jury nullification is nearly non-existent.
Hey,
Yeah.
before I go, I got to say something. I want to add something to the conversation here. I was raised, well, I am, a strong Catholic. I'm very active in the church and all that. I'm very conservative. And when Carlos told me that he was going to go to California to get educated on marijuana and all that stuff, it was like, oh my God, where did I fail my kid? So we were able to sit down, and he really educated both me and my wife. We were very
Nice.
lucky that we did. And one of the things that really convinced me, we had a business in Hialeah, air conditioning business, selling big equipment. And there was one of the Cana moms that went over. We became friendly with some of them and came over, and she brought over her son Bruno, and I wanted her to spend some time with my wife, talking to my wife. So I said, "Look, I'm going to hold Bruno for a while you guys are talking, And this little kid had, in about an hour that I had him in my arms, he must have had at least 100 seizures when I was holding him. And when they started him on the medical marijuana, it went down from 100 an hour to maybe one or two a day. And that really, really convinced the hell out of me. So that's one of the testimonies that I have. I'm still Catholic. I'm still a conservative. I'm still a retrograde, but I'm all for legalization and the medical uses of the marijuana. Okay.
Es un regalo de Dios.
Okay.
Eso es esto.
What was that, Gary? What was that?
It was a gift from God.
As
I'm teaching in
Yes.
Spanish.
how do you say
It's
gift?
a rough going.
How do you say gift?
Regalo.
Reglo de Dios. I love you, Papi.
I love you more, my son. I'm proud of you.
Thanks for coming on. Do you have any questions for Indy before you go?
No. Just maybe one day I can sit down with you and you drive me around Moroso or Homestead or something like that and give me a thrill. Okay?
All right. Yes, sir.
I'd love to.
I got to tell you, growing up in Miami, you have to have nerves of steel just to drive in the expressway
Yeah.
in downtown Miami. So I can see how you could easily segue to race car driving from just everyday driving in Miami.
Are you still driving, Randy? Do you still get behind the wheel of the
I-
car?
Yes, I do. I was instructing high performance driving instructor up until COVID in 2020, and then all the track instructed since then. But I want to just mention something because you guys are in my trial in 1987. I contacted. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's passed away. May he rest in peace. But Kevin Zeese, founders of Normal. He was the president of Normal in 1987. I contacted Kevin Zeese and asked him if he could help me have an evidentiary. His plant is a plant that heals, and it's cruel and unusual punishment not and sentence someone to a natural death sentence for marijuana. So we had all in doctors and experts, and we mapped it all out. Justice Department that it is definitely cruel and unusual punishment to sentence any in prison marijuana. Well, it didn't fly. I took it to the Supreme Court, didn't fly, and to this day, they've still not ruled on is it cruel and unusual someone to natural death sentence for marijuana. And in my viewpoint, absolutely prison for this plant. If you didn't pay your taxes, charge for taxes, maximum sentence. But other than distributing a plant and to lock them up for a life sentence, that to me is cruel and unusual punishment. And these laws, and I see bills that are getting put on the floor, and but they all saying that has through the Senate, and that's a decriminalization, rescheduling bill. Why should it be hard? For real, it's a plant that heals, and like your dad, education is the key. I go to events often. We're doing California. We're doing Alaska this weekend. We have Alaska this weekend. We educate people and we ask people to sign our letters. Freedomgrow.org. We have letters to the president asking President Biden to release. We have 5 nonviolent cannabis prisoners that's registered with us, and President Biden as many letters as we can asking them to release these cannabis.
Any ideas of how many lifers are still out there?
Of lifers, there's thousands of cannabis prisoners, mostly all nonviolent. And I watched the system grow from the 80s, 2014, and every cannabis prisoner I met was a nonviolent cannabis prisoner, and these people need to come home, and you guys can help us. Audience, check out freedomgrow.org. We do programs, Gary, that is amazing. We have a wish program. If you're a cannabis prisoner, if it's your birthday or your family's birthday, and I don't care if it's your grandchildren's, all you have to do is tell us what you wish, and we make it happen.
So it's basically an aid and comfort situation for those folks who are desperately trying to get out and still trying to work through the system to get out.
It's an aid and comfort, but it's also part of and feeling of value with your family. We like to try to keep the bonds in place. So, like, for example, at Easter, every holiday we do gifting. At 26 prisoners we had 126 children. So we made up 100 skits with little water bottles that said, "You are strong, you are brave, and you are smart." We put little in the basket. We put in activity books. We put in chocolate, Easter jelly beans and all that. But we also added a $25 gift card to Walmart. Same thing with Christmas. We had 205 $100 gift cards to Walmart and Target for the family's Christmas shopping with the kiddos.
Mm-hmm. Man, you're doing some great things, man.
Thank you.
We really got to give it to you, man.
To highlight.
That's the thing. Is like, I can tell you, if I ever went to prison, I'd probably be depressed for like a decade afterwards. Like the fact that you came out of something like that and you were put in there for something so unjust, and you're coming out and you're trying to help people and you're trying to spread the message, you're trying to spread education. Kudos to you, man, because we need people like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Just to comment on what you just said, there's a lot of tough men in prison that go through depression, that go through loneliness. But my last 9 years, I became what's called. I sat with men 4 hours a day that tried to take their life. Would put us in. I would go to this hospital in a maximum security prison, and plexiglass cell with a big cement block that's a couple feet wide, and that was their bed. They didn't have suicide jacket with no arms in it. They only ate bag lunch utensils because they might use the utensils to plop a vein or something. But and loneliness that people go through. I sat with these people 4 hours a day. They didn't get better. They would get sent to a psych hospital in Missouri, a penitentiary down. And it's sad to see because this speaking the third therapists and people that are conscious that we have all the tools within us to, if you're looking for that, you don't have to search for it. It's within us. And it's an amazing have by contemplating and really doing some inner work. And it's ways to get over the depression and stuff by understanding blessed with all the gifts that we have. And we can change any circumstance by looking at it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. Well, inspirational words, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. I can't imagine it's you know what I mean? Like I'm such a baby, such a spoiled baby when it comes to stuff, like if I'm laying on a sock that's on my couch, right, I'm completely uncomfortable. You know what I mean? The idea of somebody taking away my freedom, and taking it away for life, like thinking like my freedom's gone for life, it would destroy me. So yeah, it's important. It's important to take care of these people. These are still people behind bars.
That destroy us will only make us stronger and warriors. We all have a warrior within us, and we can tap into that to how we others. And so for my last 9 years, it took me 8. The resentment against my understand that I'm only hurting myself, and by forgiving all the people that testified, these were friends, these were family members. I forgave them a lot of freedom off of my chest and shoulders, and I started understanding whether I'm in a 7 by 10 foot cell locked in solitary confinement, because incapability to be the observer of my own own thoughts. And that's an amazing thing when you step back and start understanding what it is that you are, to be able to be aware of your own breath. It's badass.
Yeah, I was told that in prison it's often it's pretty much an equalizer. No matter what you came in there for, everybody gets to a certain level. They all know they're in this together, and in some cases you get a camaraderie. And some folks get more angrier, and some folks get calmer, but they all kind of get to the same point. And I guess you were also into mindfulness as well at one point in time, where you started looking into yoga, things of that sort, to try to get through it.
Gary, look, this path, I have no regrets. I have some remorse. Regret and remorse is two different things. Regret is when you do shit that you don't like about yourself. Regret because you should always love yourself. Remorse is when you do things that you don't like what you've done. With the prison going in, I became a yoga instructor, a Tai Chi, just learning to really be present, and that you have for being present and experiencing what you're experiencing. In 2 years in solitary confinement, 7 years altogether in solitary confinement, and in those moments standing that, you know what, I'm good. If this door doesn't open, I can study my chest and my sit-ups and my workouts, and I read my books, and it doesn't matter where I'm at the present. Now, I picked up oil painting in the joint, and now, we could be in the south of France painting. It doesn't matter, because you're in the painting when you're painting, not in a sale. You're just there present.
So, Randy, I want to take a moment to talk about the book real quick.
Yeah,
survival of the fastest.
That is.
I understand you're sending us a copy. When I go and I pick it up and I start reading and I get to the back cover, what is it that you want me to learn? What is it that you want me to take away from the book?
Well, if there's something from it, that we all have many gifts within us, and we all have to accomplish and be successful. But successful for me isn't a ton of money. I've been there, done that, accomplishing all my goals. But it's when your actions mirror. You can be successful every day of your life if you're in your intentions, and your intentions are coming from your heart, or get successful, and you're going to draw that kind of success to you because everyone wants to be. That's all.
It doesn't even matter if you were served a life sentence, you can still be successful, huh?
Absolutely. Doesn't look, we're not our past, bro. We're none of that. Not our thoughts or emotions or none of that either. We're a proportion of divine energy. That's what we are.
Let me ask you a quick question, because people are always asking this all the time. You were probably in some kind of zone when you're going 120 miles an hour, but people often say, that, and we have to deal with this all the time when we're debating, folks, whether or not people are able to drive better or worse when it comes to cannabis is concerned. Now, of course, one of the jokes is the fact that the average drunk will go through a red light and they have no problem with it, whereas somebody who's using cannabis will stop at a stop sign and wait for it to turn green.
Look, I never smoked weed in a race car. But look, if I'm smoking, going to drive, I'm careful about it. Unlike drink alcohol, there's so much accidents and domestic violence due to alcohol. Society looks at it and doesn't think anything negative towards it, and yet this
It's not even that people don't think anything negative towards alcohol. It's literally, if you say you don't, because I go to social events and don't drink, so like I have to explain why I don't drink, like I don't want to consume that drug. Like it's like crazy. But I'm sorry to cut you off.
all good. Smoking and the driving, but the drinking and the driving is two different things. You can't even compare. Unfortunately, this plant has had decades that should have never been in place, just like the war on drugs. This war on drugs, war on citizens, our own citizens. For decades, we've been locking people up, and it's just a plant. It's a plant that heals. No one should be in prison. Selling it illegally, okay, pay your taxes.
It's
but not don't
one of the few.
out the-
It's one of the few things in this world that hasn't hurt anybody, only helped. It's only ever helped, and yet we can't have it.
Now there's a report that came out this last week saying that the number one city in the country for pedestrian deaths from autos is Daytona.
Huh.
Believe it or not, Daytona and Deltona. Now, I'm not saying this is a NASCAR thing, perhaps, aiming for pedestrians, but it just seems like an odd coincidence that here we have, one of the centers of NASCAR racing right here in Florida, and it also happens to be some of the worst drivers in the world, right all around it.
Wow, I didn't know that statistic. That's kind of ironic.
Orlando is and Tampa are also in the top 10 as well.
Yeah,
but Deltona and Daytona area is the worst. So don't walk.
So
in Daytona.
So Randy, it looks like we're coming to. So we're doing we've been doing this candidate spotlight thing, or get to know your candidate.
Yeah,
and I changed the thing for it.
That's fine.
But no. So we've been doing this get to know your candidate thing, and this is one of the first time we have the interview actually recorded. So we're actually running to the end of your interview right now. I just want you to take a minute. Just can you take a look into your camera, let people know how they can support you, where they can find you, things like that.
So you can support us, freedomgrow.org organization. Check my book out, Survival of the Fastest, coming out. And freedomgrow.org, we support us and their families.
Yeah. Any last words? Anything you want to say?
Man, it's all good. I'll be in New Jersey growing weed soon. I just got a cultivation license, and this platform for spreading the message. I love Normal. They was with me 7, and just keep on doing what you're doing.
Fantastic. That in New Jersey is actually giving out real social equity licenses to those people who are disproportionately affected on the war on drugs, and it's a horizontal license. This is a cultivation license, so you don't have to go straight from seed to delivery, and you can actually gain it for less than $50 million.
Yes, it's
So
a cultivation license. Gary, just to add on that, they can get if you've been impacted by the war on drugs, you can license that allows you to cultivate 2,500 feet, or you can go up to tier 3, tier 4, up to 75,000 square feet, which is what I have.
well, Richard DeLisi's got
By the
a
way,
new one called
if
Delicioso.
anybody wants to,
Yeah, what have you already named your brand?
yes, I'm on the point of looking at several brand names, Octane Cannabis,
Octane Cannabis. I like
because
it.
of the racing
I like
cannabis.
it.
And but I just want to know, for any audience that may investors, if anybody wants to get involved in the cannabis industry, easy to find. Randy Lanier, free at yahoo.com.
I appreciate you, Randy. Thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you.
Very interesting stuff. Appreciate all the work you've done. Just your life has brought a lot of awareness to this plant. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish my father-in-law was here to meet you. He invented the nitrogen injection engine for the Viper
And
to try to increase the octane and get rid of the turbo.
I see Poppy still watching there.
I keep on learning. That's what I got to do every day, and make every day, a great day in my life. I am so lucky that I'm so blessed with my family, my son, my wife, everybody, and everybody that I have around me. So thank you, Randy. You're a blessing too. I really enjoy listening to you.
Thank you, bro. Poppy, when we live with gratitude, it's amazing the abundance of people, the right people come in their life, the right opportunities, a good foundation of gratitude, and really being thankful for all that. It's a whole lot of better situations for us all.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate you.
All right, on. Thank you, guys.
Right. So yeah, we've got this candidate spotlight after that amazing interview.
Absolutely.
What was it? I have problems pronouncing her name.
Okay,
what's her name?
This lady is Dr. Cynthia Bonnier, and she is running for Congress over by the Fort Myers area. I keep on saying Fort Pierce, but that's the wrong side of the state. Up against Byron Donalds, who's a very interesting guy who still doesn't believe that Biden's the president yet. So it's gonna be an interesting race.
There, the way I'm just realizing right now, it's just basically gonna look like a woman's appeared in between us. So let's get the interview going.
Good afternoon, and welcome to today's segment of Better Know a Candidate. So strap on your thinking cap because we're going to fill it.
What is it you said? Better know your candidate. I put
Better know a candidate. Yes,
I put candidate spotlight.
that's good enough.
Okay.
Whatever works. I mean, it's catch as catch can. We're coming up on the primary, but some folks have been good enough not to have a primary. And this young lady between the two of us right now has had that opportunity. This is Dr. Cindy Bonnier from Fort Pierce.
Fort Myers.
Yeah. I just said that so you could correct me.
Very different. Very
That's
different.
right.
Two different. Yeah, that's on the other side
In
of the state.
Congressional
There,
District
Gary.
19.
That's right.
Okay,
There we go.
that's much more specific. I don't know anything about those districts.
Okay. Well, I can tell you one thing. It's one of those ones that got gerrymandered the heck out of it and got changed around a bit. And her opponent, the current incumbent in that area, is a very interesting person. Let's put
That's
this
one way to put it.
to Byron Donald. He is okay with the gerrymandering, even though it actually removed 2 districts that helped elect 2 people of color and 2 very important people in our state, as a matter of fact. The wonderful Al Lawson, who's far too tall for me, and also Val Demings, who hopefully will be getting on the show pretty soon. How badly was your district changed when they went ahead and worked on that paper?
So the biggest districts in that were changed, the biggest things that were changed in my district in 19, just for reference, goes Boca Grande all the way down to Marco Island, includes Naples and Fort Myers. It didn't ultimately change a whole lot, except for my opponent, Byron Donald's new house is now looped into the district.
Oh, how nice.
Oh yeah, very convenient for that.
Does it come in landscaping?
Came with a little loop at the end. But otherwise, the Ron DeSantis map was really similar to the way that 19 had been before. And the map that had passed the Florida Senate was actually really appalling, because it actually cut out half of Fort Myers and another area called Lehigh Acres, both where there's a very large Black population, very large Hispanic population in those areas. And the line was literally down the train track, which was the segregation line in Fort Myers.
Yeah. That's the thing about Florida. You have train tracks, and they are actually racial boundaries.
Yeah.
Especially in places like Coconut Grove and that kind of area on the other side of the state, things of that sort. So
there's a train track like right there.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering how
it doesn't work that way.
Congressman
anymore,
Donald's actually got in
no
the first
racial
place.
boundary between the train tracks and Ybor. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in Fort Myers, the train track is so symbolic that in the segregation era, people had to be on the other side of the train track before sunset. And the train station that was coming into Fort Myers was never actually formally desegregated right up until it closed in 1974.
You know, I got to tell you guys, switching gears from the other side of the tracks here. We were talking about how districts are like redone and everything like that. I gotta tell you, you can really notice the difference in Florida, pre DeSantis, post DeSantis. I don't even want to point to anything specific, maybe all the homeless people out here in Ybor, but I just a general vibe, we just kind of people in general just kind of feel defeated, I think, and just kind of are falling for this system and everything. We got to change this, because there's going to be no marijuana reform while DeSantis is in power.
That's true.
See, here's my idea. Let's just get rid of congressional districts altogether. Well, actually have them there. But when you get to the ballot box, you can check off which districts you want to vote for. So you don't have to vote in just your area, because they don't really seem to represent their own constituents anyway. Yeah. So let's say, I want to vote on 19. I want to vote on 12. I definitely want to get to, voting on 1 and going on from there. And that would be a really, really open primary.
I would like to see some of the reforms that were put forth in the John Lewis, Elections Act, and that is to make the districts more competitive, because that will eliminate gerrymandering in places like my district. What we have in Florida is they're stacking districts. So we have extremely Democratic districts, we have extremely Republican districts, and very few districts in between. If we had a more equitable way to split those up, then people would have more of a choice, and voting in local elections, voting in congressional elections would feel like it matters.
Well, our legislature is the one who sets up the state legislature sets up the federal congressional districts. I guess that's supposed to be like one degree of separation, so they're not actually gerrymandering their own districts. But then again, they do that for the state districts anyway. So,
well, I mean, they gerrymandered all of them. They get, and this happens with every organization, every party that's in power gerrymanders in their favor. So that's why having a federal law that says you have to make the districts as equitable as possible is a good idea. And then states have to comply to that. They can draw the lines wherever they want, but they have to make them equitable and fair districts.
all right, well, this is where it's leading up. I tell the folks exactly where 19 is now, so we'll know who out there can actually vote for you and who can't. So the guys know whether to listen really, really closely or to listen, to something in your archive in your brain. But definitely send money to your campaign anyway.
Definitely send money. I'm big into the green. So we are Southwest Florida. So we do Cape Coral, Lehigh, Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, Fort Myers, Estero, where Florida Gulf Coast University is, Bonita Springs, and coastal Naples and Collier.
So Bonita Springs is where the white folks come in.
Almost all of it is where the white folks come in because they've cut most of the black folks out of the district.
But you don't go as high as Punta Gorda, though. So
no, right up to the edge of Charlotte County.
So what is the makeup of your district as far as Republican, Democrat, NPA, or Hispanic, Black, White?
So we have a less than average amount of folks who are Black in the community. In the district itself, we have about 35 to 40% people who identify, as Latino of some kind. But otherwise, we're into the 90% of folks who are white. So it's very white, and it's also very Republican. So Democrats we're at about 35% right now. And we have more NPAs than Democrats and more Republicans overall. It's very much stacked in the favor of Republicans.
Well, I'll give you a boost right now and let everybody know that actually, I'm going to keep that a secret until the end. But go ahead and tell us about yourself and why you feel that you'd be the best person for that district.
So, my name is Dr. Cindy Banier. I am the Democratic nominee, and that's a big deal. I was the 2020 nominee, and I won that nomination because I am a regular person. I am a mom and small business owner fighting for our water, our health, and our community, and I'm working to create a Southwest Florida where the sun shines on everyone. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about making sure that everybody has the fair shake, that we are designing a government that makes it a priority that everybody has the same chance to work hard and have a good quality of life. So
very cool. And I just want to point out that you can't really tell from the recording, but you've had a little bit of an injury, and you've traveled all the way over here to Ybor City to talk to two schlubs about marijuana.
Yes. You want me to tell you about that? That's a good story, actually.
Yeah, what happened?
So I have my leg is broken in 3 places, and I had reconstructive surgery on my ankle because over Memorial Day we were enjoying the beautiful beaches with some friends and family, and we were about to leave, and the tide started to pull out, and my youngest daughter, who's 5 years old, started to get pulled under the boat by the tide, and I jumped over the side of the boat.
You saved your daughter.
I saved my daughter and my friend's daughter, pulled them both to shore, and immediately knew that I broke my leg. So
that's incredible. That's like a really cool story. So I want to share with you some information that I'm privy to about medicine, that medical marijuana is actually really good for pain.
Yeah. And I'll actually tell you something about that. I was thinking a heck of a lot about that because, they prescribed me opioids for this. And, I don't do a lot of stuff like that. And so I was in a significant amount of pain. I was taking those opioids. And in the early days, I was such a mess, it didn't matter. But I actually ended up going through withdrawals at one point. Yes. It was such a shock to me because, again, here I'm Pollyanna. The doctor told me to take this medicine to help me with the pain. And it was a case where it's like early on I had taken a lot. And then about a week later, I had taken another opioid pill because the pain started to come back. And I took that one. And then the next day I was in full DTs, chills and all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't believe it. And it's really scary that we are not having a better and a more robust discussion about the types of pain medications that people can have, so they do not get addicted to opioids and they do not go through withdrawals every time that they have an injury.
Well, let's talk about that right now.
Let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
your district was actually one of the ground zeros in Florida for the opioid epidemic.
Absolutely, it was. That was right in Lehigh. They were pill mills more than we can count.
Hmm.
And I actually spent some time with a recovery community organization there, so helping people who have addiction and getting back into recovery and the multiple paths to recovery. And it's devastating to our community, to families. And I just really think it's important that we have other types of therapeutic medicines that can help people when they're in pain, so the doctors aren't just handing out scripts, and definitely getting rid of the pill mills and the people who are just handing them out knowing that these folks are having addiction problems.
And of course, the side effects of using cannabis for pain, you may sleep in, or you may lose some sleep running to the refrigerator to see how much hummus is left. But you won't have withdrawal symptoms. No, not the physical withdrawal that you get from opioids, which is great.
How long has Florida had medical marijuana now? We've been a medical marijuana state since
January 17th of 2017 was when it first got
2017. We've had
yeah.
medical marijuana available, right? So is there any type of information out there about how it's affected the opioid crisis here in Florida? Has that come out at all?
Not a lot. One of our directors of Normal, Paul Armentano, has written a couple of papers on it, and there's been information going back to the 1880s talking about how to use cannabis for what they called opioid poisoning at the time.
Really?
So the research goes that far back, and it does verify that it does work as a substitute it brings the opioid poisoning into detail, so that you can actually get through it and get off the opioids, which is so important. They also used that at that point in time for remediation of alcoholism, as well as an adjunct therapy.
Well, I'd be interested to see how medical marijuana has impacted the opioid crisis in the state, and maybe if Big Cannabis is in charge of a medical marijuana system, how that's impeded any type of a drawback between the opioid crisis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying using my words correctly. The thing about podcasting, you got to say words right.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true.
And that's so hard for me.
Well,
you can't slur your words.
what I do know is
That's
that
why I drink coffee.
especially through the COVID epidemic or the COVID pandemic, we actually saw an uptick overall in opioid use, and an uptick in deaths related to overdose. We also have the fentanyl components that are coming in that are making opioid use so much more dangerous. People don't even realize that they're that they are taking such a powerful drug because it's mixed in when they're using street drugs, and they die. The organization I work with was distributing Narcan for that purpose, right? So I don't know if there's going to be a great correlation in the state of Florida between the legalization of medical marijuana and opioids because of the circumstance. But what I can tell you from my personal experience and from what I know from data as well is that doctors aren't readily prescribing medical marijuana in the same way that they're prescribing other pharmaceuticals. Like I said, this my leg might have been a case where that could have been an option or something that my doctor talked to me about, but that wasn't what happened.
Didn't have to, because doctors have to be registered to recommend in the state. So if every doctor had that available,
right.
if you broke your leg, Cindy, you should smoke a blunt.
Now, this is something that's going to be important to our readers. When you go to DC, see how I got what that is in a positive. When you go to DC, you will find that the pro-cannabis movement is actually bipartisan, both in the House and the Senate. We actually had on here not too long ago Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who's made an incredible bill from the Republican side that's getting bipartisan support, and it may actually get through the House, but it may be blocked in the Senate again because of leadership issues. But what things will you be bringing to DC to get us farther into getting those kind of things passed?
Well, my personal stance on my policy stance is that I believe in full decriminalization. I believe in expungement of possession records going back. And I think that will have the dual effect of helping our, legal system, judicial system, criminal justice system get on a good path. And it will stop putting people who are simply enjoying cannabis and all the related products to it, keep them out of the judicial system. It will help our communities overall. I also want to make sure that, declassifying it as a Schedule 3, drug, and making sure that the banking systems can help support the industries that are behind it. So it's making those federal changes, because the states now are in lots of different positions with recreational and medicinal cannabis, but there are still issues with how those businesses can be funded. So making sure that the businesses, and not just a handful of select businesses, by the way, and I know that you were alluding to that with the big cannabis comment, but that there are people who can have homegrown, there are small business operators, because I'm a big small business proponent, can get into the industry without major barriers from the federal level.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us today. So we've reached where we at? We're at like the 16-minute mark. And time on these interviews is very important. So I want to go ahead.
17, the guy with the axe comes around swinging. So it's
there's literally that thing, that hook will come and pull Gary off. But go ahead, take a moment.
Borrowed it from the Apollo Theater. Yeah, absolutely.
Take a moment to look into the camera there and tell people who you are, any last words you want to put out, and where they can find you, how they can support you.
Absolutely. So I gave you the typical spiel, but I am somebody who's spent their entire life working for the people, making sure that our communities are strong. I'm an instructor in American government and political science at a university, and I have the knowledge and skills to go to Washington, D.C. to make the policy that we need to help people in this community, in our state, and in the country. So I'm Dr. Cindy Banier. I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives, Florida 19 in Southwest Florida. I can take and would love to have your assistance from all over the state and the country, because I am a 100% grassroots candidate. I do not take corporate dollars. I have no dark money in my pockets. It's really just me and the people and our community coming together behind me. So I would love to have your support. If you want to do some virtual volunteering, we do that as well. CindyBanier.com. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and just about everywhere else.
Now, as a personal aside, I am just thrilled to see that somebody who is actually a professor, a PhD in political science, actually going to DC, because we actually have people like Herschel Walker,
more people
and
DC,
Dr. Oz, who are running for office in the Senate, whose major political acumen comes from the back of a cereal box somewhere, and I don't think that cereal was any good anymore. I think it passed its expiration date.
Right.
I
tell people that I'm running for Congress because so many people, the dumbest people I knew were in charge, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
And on that note, thanks for joining us,
Absolutely.
Cindy. Appreciate you. And we're back. Whoa, that was a great interview. Yeah, you guys caught Gary was still chilling.
I was chilling. I was just mentioning the fact that we had both Nikki and Charlie on as the two gubernatorial candidates going at it, and today is our first and one and only debate, and it's actually running during the same time that the January 6th committee hearings are going on, which is bad programming. Bad programming.
Two things in Florida government are happening right now. What's the
one might think if somebody didn't want us to watch them.
Crazy.
It's an important thing, because I think our governor will really have a lot to do with whether or not we actually get legalization done.
But that's also the thing, is that in order to get rid of the powerhouse that is DeSantis, not saying that I like DeSantis, I'm going to put up DeSantis as an asshat while we're doing this. But not saying that I like DeSantis. I want DeSantis out of power, but like, he's a fucking powerhouse. Like, if we're going to get somebody to replace him, especially a Democrat, like, we have to be able to see these debates. Like, people have to know what's going on, and people have to, like, these people need money.
Yeah, they do.
Like they need money, they need support. It looks like they're not getting it.
Yeah, we need somebody like John Fetterman who's willing to go ahead and just throw tons of like massive Twitter issues at his opponent, which has been really cool because he's been beating the heck out of Mehmet Oz. You've seen any of those kind of things.
Who's he doing what?
Dr. Oz.
Oh,
he's running against for Senate in Pennsylvania. And we are trying to get John Fetterman on here. I'm still working on that.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of people on.
Yeah, we do. We just recently hooked.
That's what I was trying to tell you. We could take a chill pill on the candidate spotlight. We got like 3 of them recorded, and
yeah, we have so many legislators to go. I just wanted to concentrate a bit on the primaries before the primaries come up. Not everybody has a primary. A lot of folks were either the only candidate or there was nobody running as a Democrat or a Republican. So there aren't as many primaries this time as there are usually.
I think we should just take the next show and just show all and do an interview on top of it.
Well,
if we got because we got a lot of interviews saved up. Anyways, we could plan the show when we're not doing the show.
Yeah, we could do that. Now this Sunday we are going to be replaying this interview right here.
This one
because he's going to Vegas. I think it's Chris has been deported to Spain.
Yeah, he's living the high life with his wife right now in España.
Yeah, and so he'll be back after that. And when they get back, we're going to have Aramis Ayala, who's running for the Attorney General.
Oh wow!
And she has a primary against 2 very interesting people, including this guy named Ufelder, who, if you may remember or not, during the time that they started opening up the beaches too early, he was walking around the beach in a Grim Reaper uniform or costume. That's the kind of seriousness we need in the Attorney General's office.
Well, I mean, nowadays anything can happen. We're living in the aftermath of Trump. Like we had a president that likes to grab him by the pussy. So I mean, I don't.
Well, this might interest you.
I don't think it's that bad considering the president.
Ms. Ayala was the state attorney for the Orange County area, and she refused to allow the death penalties. Good. And that made Rick Scott really angry.
I'm sure.
As you can imagine.
So yeah, I guess we've got all these interviews that have happened. I guess it's time to end the show.
Yeah, so don't forget, if you want to be a member of Suncoast Normal, kick it in. Kick it in, $25, and you'll get a fabulous little pin here, which is.
You didn't wear the jacket today.
I didn't wear the jacket today. You know why? Because it's goddamn hot out.
And that's a bag of screws.
It's a bag of screws. I thought it was a pin. But it's damn hot out. My air conditioning is out in the house. It's 90 degrees. Damn. It's Florida, right?
That's why you don't want to end the show. You don't want to go home to your hot house.
That's right. It's nice and cool here in Chillum, in CBD Glass Gallery, with some of the coolest stuff you could buy too.
Well, here, you know what? Let's not even like persuade people with that. You know, if you want these awesome interviews with people like Randy Lanier, if you want to keep getting educated with all these candidates that support cannabis in the state, if you want to see people like Tommy Chong and whatever, Charlie Chris and Nikki Fried and all that, right? Support us. This guy Gary does all this shit for free, right?
Not willingly.
And he is extremely cheap. He is extremely cheap, and he still does it for free. And that's quite honestly, like, if you want to know what you'd be supporting if you support Suncoast Normal, you're going to support Gary, because Gary has been putting a lot of effort into getting education your way, and he's also put a lot of effort into being politically active. You know, our normal chapter is the most politically active normal chapter. This guy has helped write so many bills, right? And still doing it for free. So if you want to continue keeping the lights on here at Suncoast Normal, support us, become a member.
If you want legalization, you can't do it sitting on your couch with an indica. You have to actually get up and do something. We want your talent or your treasure or your time, but we do want you.
So on that note, let's end the show.
All right. In that case, puff, puff, and pass.
Yeah.
It's time to end this rotation.
We'll see you in a couple weeks, guys.